By 11:30 a.m. that Friday morning, I'd be sitting in the executive boardroom at Meridian Hospitality Group, watching my son Marcus desperately polish my Italian leather shoes while begging me not to terminate the $8.7 million catering contract that had been funding his entire restaurant empire for the past 3 years. A contract he believed came from his own business success and networking skills, never knowing I was the silent majority shareholder who had been orchestrating every major deal his company received, all because he had forced me to scrub his kitchen floors until 3 a.m. on my 70th birthday, while treating me like an unpaid servant he could exploit without consequences. Completely unaware that the helpless old mother he humiliated actually controlled the hospitality conglomerate that made his professional reputation and financial security possible. Before we dive into this incredible story of birthday humiliation and the $23.4 million business empire my son never knew I controlled, make sure to hit that like button. Drop a comment telling me about your worst experience with ungrateful family members who underestimated you. And subscribe so you never miss stories like this one about what happens when people assume their elderly parents are powerless and discover just how expensive that assumption can be. My name is Margaret Chen. I'm 70 years old, and this story begins 18 months ago when I made what seemed like a reasonable decision to let my son Marcus believe his restaurant success came from his own abilities while keeping my actual ownership of the hospitality empire that funded his entire lifestyle completely secret. A decision that would reveal his true character and teach me the most costly lesson about family respect when you appear dependent versus when you control all the resources they depend on for their professional survival. But to understand how I ended up scrubbing commercial kitchen floors until 3 a.m. on my 70th birthday, while secretly controlling a $23.4 million hospitality conglomerate that made my son's restaurant career possible, you need to know who I was before inheriting my late husband's business empire changed everything, and before Marcus's assumptions about my helplessness led him to make the most catastrophic mistake of his professional and personal life. For 32 years, I was Margaret Chen, Senior Operations Director at Pacific Coast Hotel Management, one of California's largest hospitality networks, overseeing 47 luxury properties from San Diego to San Francisco, managing everything from 5-star resorts to boutique conference centers that hosted Fortune 500 corporate retreats and international business summits worth hundreds of millions in annual revenue. I wasn't just coordinating reservations or managing routine hotel administration. I was the strategic mastermind responsible for ensuring that multi-million-dollar hospitality operations ran with precision efficiency that could make or break corporate partnerships, international conferences, and celebrity events where a single operational failure could destroy reputations, end careers, and cost companies millions in lost business opportunities and damaged professional relationships. My responsibilities encompassed coordinating catering operations for events serving up to 3,000 guests simultaneously across multiple venues, managing supply chain logistics for premium food service operations worth over $47 million annually, supervising culinary teams of 200-plus professional chefs and service staff across the entire hotel network, and implementing systematic improvements that increased guest satisfaction ratings by 31%, while boosting hospitality revenue by $18.9 million during my final 8 years of executive leadership. But these numbers only tell part of the story about the complexity and critical importance of luxury hospitality management at the highest levels. When you're responsible for ensuring that tech industry conferences have flawless catering for 2,500 executives, that celebrity wedding receptions execute perfectly with zero room for error, and that international business summits provide world-class dining experiences that can influence billion-dollar corporate deals, every decision carries enormous weight and consequences that extend far beyond simple food service and guest accommodation. During the height of my career at Pacific Coast Hotel Management, I was personally responsible for coordinating some of the most prestigious events in California's hospitality industry. The annual Apple executive retreat at our Monterey property required managing 500 of the world's most demanding VIP guests across 4 days of presentations, dining experiences, and entertainment that cost $3.2 million to execute flawlessly. A single mistake in meal timing, dietary accommodations, or service protocol could have ended our contract with one of our highest-paying corporate clients. I remember the 2018 Google Shareholders Conference where I had to coordinate simultaneous catering for 1,800 attendees across 3 venues while managing real-time dietary restrictions for 47 different cultural and medical requirements, all while ensuring that the presentation technology, room acoustics, and service timing supported business discussions that would determine the allocation of billions in investment capital. The precision required was military level. Every water glass positioned exactly, every course served within 90-second windows, every technical detail synchronized to support discussions that would shape the future of technology innovation. The entertainment industry events were even more demanding. When we hosted the wrap party for a major Hollywood production at our Santa Barbara resort, I managed catering for 650 celebrities, directors, producers, and studio executives, while coordinating with security teams, media management, and dietary specialists who ensured that every guest's specific requirements were met without drawing attention to individual needs or creating service delays that could disrupt the carefully orchestrated networking opportunities that determined future film projects and career advancement. During the 2020 pandemic crisis that devastated the hospitality industry throughout California, I coordinated emergency response protocols that literally saved businesses by ensuring continuity of operations during unprecedented challenges. Working 20-hour days for 4 months straight, I redesigned service delivery systems in real time, coordinated safety protocols with health departments across 7 counties, managed staff redeployment programs that prevented massive layoffs, and implemented innovative revenue streams that kept luxury properties operational when traditional hospitality models collapsed completely. My pandemic response strategy involved transforming our luxury dining rooms into socially distanced conference centers for essential business meetings, converting ballrooms into safe event spaces for small weddings and celebrations that couldn't be postponed, and developing delivery systems for high-end catering that maintained our quality standards while serving clients who needed professional food service for virtual events and home-based corporate functions. The most challenging aspect was maintaining staff employment and professional development during a period when traditional hospitality work disappeared almost overnight. I designed cross-training programs that allowed our dining room servers to transition into event coordination, helped our chefs develop skills in meal kit preparation and specialty food production, and created partnerships with healthcare facilities that needed professional food service for essential workers who were too exhausted to prepare their own meals after 18-hour shifts, saving lives. The Pacific Coast Hotel Management Network specialized in corporate retreats, luxury conferences, celebrity events, and high-end catering services that operated with zero tolerance for operational failures. A mistake in event coordination could destroy a Fortune 500 company's annual conference. Errors in catering management could ruin celebrity weddings that cost millions and generate international media coverage. Failures in service delivery could end corporate partnerships worth tens of millions in annual contracts. But the most demanding events were the international business summits where I coordinated dining experiences for heads of state, international CEOs, and diplomatic officials whose meetings could determine trade policies, international partnerships, and economic agreements that affected millions of people. The 2019 Pacific Rim Economic Conference required me to manage culturally appropriate dining for representatives from 17 countries, while ensuring that every protocol requirement was met, every dietary restriction was accommodated, and every service interaction supported the diplomatic relationships that were being built through shared meals and hospitality experiences. These events taught me that hospitality isn't just about food service. It's about creating environments where human connections can flourish, business relationships can develop, and important decisions can be made in settings that demonstrate respect, attention to detail, and genuine care for people's comfort and well-being. The most successful events were those where guests felt valued and respected regardless of their position, status, or specific needs. My expertise in hospitality operations extended beyond our hotel network to consulting relationships with luxury venues throughout California, Nevada, and Arizona. I helped independent restaurants implement service protocols that elevated them to Michelin consideration, trained culinary teams in efficiency systems that reduced costs while improving quality, and developed event management procedures that smaller venues could adapt to compete for high-end corporate and celebrity clientele. The consulting work involved everything from menu development and kitchen workflow optimization to staff training, programs that taught servers how to provide exceptional service without being intrusive, how to handle difficult customers with grace and professionalism, and how to work as part of teams that could execute flawless events under pressure while maintaining the hospitality standards that create memorable experiences for guests. 1 of my most successful consulting projects involved transforming a struggling family restaurant in Sacramento into a destination dining experience that eventually earned recognition from the James Beard Foundation. The owners had excellent culinary skills, but lacked the systems and service protocols necessary to provide consistent experiences that would build a loyal customer base and attract positive reviews from food critics and influential diners. I spent 6 months working with their team to redesign their kitchen workflow, implement inventory management systems that reduced food waste by 40%, develop staff training programs that improved service quality and customer satisfaction, and create marketing strategies that attracted corporate clients who needed reliable venues for business dining and small events. Within 2 years, their revenue had increased by 180%. They had expanded into catering services, and they were being featured in food magazines as one of Northern California's most promising culinary destinations. These consulting opportunities provided substantial additional income that enhanced our family's financial security, but more importantly, they gave me comprehensive understanding of restaurant regulations, food service standards, hospitality industry contracts, and the professional protocols that govern how luxury dining establishments should operate. Knowledge that would prove invaluable when my own family tried to exploit my apparent retirement vulnerability and treat me like unpaid domestic help, rather than recognizing my decades of expertise in the exact industry where my son was trying to build his career. But beyond professional achievements and industry expertise, my hospitality career had taught me invaluable lessons about human nature, service excellence, and how people reveal their true character when dealing with power dynamics, customer service responsibilities, and situations that require them to treat others with respect and dignity, regardless of perceived social status or financial position. I had observed thousands of family dynamics during luxury events over 3 decades. I had seen devoted families who treated service staff with kindness and appreciation, understanding that exceptional hospitality requires mutual respect between clients and professionals. These were the families whose events were always successful, whose staff worked enthusiastically to exceed expectations, and whose celebrations created lasting memories because everyone involved felt valued and respected. But I had also witnessed entitled families who abused restaurant workers, treated catering staff like servants, and believed that paying for services gave them permission to humiliate people who were working hard to provide excellent experiences. These events were always problematic. Staff became defensive and less cooperative, service quality suffered, and the overall experience was diminished because the negative energy created by disrespectful treatment affected everyone involved. The most telling incidents involved how families treated service staff during stressful moments, when something went wrong with timing, when dietary restrictions required menu modifications, or when last-minute changes disrupted carefully planned schedules. Gracious families worked with staff to find solutions, showed appreciation for extra effort, and understood that excellent service required partnership between clients and professionals. Entitled families used problems as opportunities to demonstrate their superiority, make unreasonable demands, and treat staff like incompetent employees who deserved abuse for imperfections in complex events. These observations had given me sophisticated understanding of respect patterns and warning signs that indicate when people view service relationships as opportunities for power displays, rather than understanding that true class and character are revealed by how you treat people when you believe they have no power to defend themselves or retaliate against disrespectful treatment. The families who treated service staff with kindness were invariably the ones who had strong internal relationships based on mutual respect and consideration. The families who abused restaurant workers almost always had internal dynamics characterized by power struggles, manipulation, and disrespect among family members that extended to their treatment of anyone they perceived as having lower status or less power. My marriage to David Chen had been a partnership built on mutual respect, shared values, and complementary skills that made us a formidable team in both personal relationships and business development. David was a hospitality entrepreneur who had started with a single-family restaurant in Chinatown in the 1980s and gradually built an impressive portfolio of dining establishments, catering companies, and event management services throughout the San Francisco Bay Area. David's business philosophy was relationship-focused and strategically brilliant. He identified emerging neighborhoods before major culinary development occurred, established restaurants and catering services that became community anchors, and built long-term partnerships with corporate clients who valued consistency, quality, and exceptional service over trendy concepts that might generate buzz but disappear during economic challenges. David had learned the restaurant business from the ground up, starting as a dishwasher in his uncle's restaurant when he was 16 years old, and working every position from prep cook to server to manager over 8 years of learning every aspect of hospitality operations. He understood that restaurant success required mastering fundamental skills, treating every team member with respect regardless of their position, and building relationships with customers based on genuine care for their dining experiences rather than viewing them as sources of revenue to be maximized. His first restaurant, Golden Dragon Garden, was a 38-seat family dining establishment that specialized in authentic Cantonese cuisine and attentive service that made every customer feel like an honored guest in our family home. David worked 16-hour days for the first 3 years, handling everything from menu planning and food preparation to customer service and financial management, while building the reputation for excellence and consistency that would become the foundation for his expanding business empire. The success of Golden Dragon Garden came from David's commitment to treating customers and staff with equal respect and consideration. He paid above-market wages to attract dedicated employees, provided health insurance and professional development opportunities when most restaurants offered only basic employment, and created profit-sharing programs that gave long-term staff members financial incentives to contribute to the restaurant's success and growth. His approach to customer service was based on the philosophy that every dining experience should be memorable for positive reasons: excellent food, attentive service, and genuine hospitality that made customers want to return and recommend the restaurant to friends and colleagues. David trained his staff to anticipate customer needs, handle complaints with grace and creativity, and view every interaction as an opportunity to build lasting relationships that would sustain the business through competitive challenges and economic uncertainty. Over 28 years of systematic business acquisition and development, David had built a hospitality empire that included 19 establishments strategically located throughout San Francisco, Oakland, San Jose, and Sacramento. These businesses included upscale restaurants, corporate catering services, event planning companies, specialty food suppliers, and luxury dining experiences that had earned recognition from food critics, celebrity clients, and Fortune 500 companies, who relied on David's operations for their most important business entertainment and corporate events. The portfolio included Chen's Palace, a 200-seat fine dining restaurant in San Francisco's financial district that served as the flagship location and attracted business executives, celebrities, and political figures who appreciated the combination of exceptional cuisine and discreet, professional service that made it ideal for confidential business discussions and high-profile social events. Dragon Catering Services had become the preferred provider for corporate events throughout the Bay Area, serving everyone from tech industry, product launches to legal firm partnership celebrations, to medical conference luncheons that required impeccable service and attention to detail. The catering operation employed 45 full-time staff members and generated $8.7 million annually from clients who valued reliability, creativity, and the ability to execute flawless events under pressure. Imperial Events Management specialized in weddings, anniversary celebrations, and family gatherings that required coordination of multiple vendors, timeline management, and the ability to handle complex logistics while maintaining the personal attention that made celebrations memorable for all the right reasons. This division had planned events for several celebrity couples, tech industry executives, and prominent political families who needed discretion, creativity, and flawless execution for occasions that would be remembered for decades. The total portfolio value had reached $23.4 million by 2021, generating monthly revenue of $2.1 million from clients who appreciated David's commitment to excellence, innovative menu development, and sophisticated service standards that made his businesses the preferred choice for high-end dining and corporate hospitality throughout Northern California. The success was built on relationships with customers who returned regularly, staff members who had worked for the company for years or even decades, and suppliers who viewed David as a trusted partner rather than just another restaurant account. But David was also a keen observer of human nature, who had noticed concerning patterns in our son Marcus's approach to work ethic, customer service, and family relationships that suggested he might not be prepared for the discipline, humility, and genuine respect for others required for success in the demanding hospitality industry. Marcus is intelligent and has potential to learn the restaurant business, David had explained to me during one of our evening conversations about succession planning and family legacy. But he consistently demonstrates patterns of entitlement and impatience that worry me about his ability to treat staff, customers, and family members with the respect that successful hospitality requires. David had noticed that Marcus's approach to part-time restaurant work during college consistently involved looking for shortcuts, avoiding unglamorous tasks, and treating entry-level positions as beneath his capabilities rather than understanding. That restaurant excellence requires mastering every aspect of service, from dishwashing to customer relations, with equal commitment and professional pride. During Marcus's summer work at Golden Dragon Garden, David observed that he would volunteer for front-of-house positions where he could interact with customers and receive recognition, but consistently found excuses to avoid kitchen prep work, dishwashing duties, and cleaning responsibilities that were essential for restaurant operations, but didn't provide opportunities for personal recognition or interaction with attractive customers. He's always looking for recognition and asking about management opportunities, instead of focusing on learning fundamental skills and proving his worth through consistent performance and respect for colleagues. David had observed with the wisdom of someone who had built lasting success through decades of hands-on work and genuine care for employees and customers alike. Marcus would arrive for his shifts focused on which customers might provide networking opportunities, which servers were attractive enough to flirt with, and which tasks would allow him to avoid getting his hands dirty or working up a sweat, rather than approaching each shift as an opportunity to learn skills, support his teammates, and contribute to the overall success of the restaurant operation. When assigned to work with experienced staff members who could teach him valuable skills, Marcus would often demonstrate impatience with their instruction, interrupt their explanations to suggest improvements based on business theory he had learned in college courses, and show obvious frustration when asked to perform tasks that he considered repetitive or beneath his intellectual capabilities. The most concerning pattern was Marcus's treatment of kitchen staff, bussers, and dishwashers, the hard-working people whose efforts made it possible for servers and managers to provide excellent customer service. Instead of appreciating their contributions and working collaboratively as part of a team, Marcus treated support staff as invisible helpers whose work was unimportant and whose opinions were irrelevant to restaurant operations. David had witnessed Marcus speaking dismissively to prep cooks who had been perfecting their craft for decades, ignoring requests for help from bussers who were overwhelmed during busy periods, and making jokes about dishwashers who worked in hot, steamy conditions to ensure that customers had clean plates and proper table settings for their dining experiences. Person's character is revealed by how they treat people who can't help their career advancement, David would often say when discussing Marcus's behavior with me. Marcus is charming and respectful to customers, managers, and anyone he thinks can benefit his future. But he's dismissive and sometimes openly disrespectful to people he views as beneath his status or unable to contribute to his personal success. This pattern extended to Marcus's treatment of family members during restaurant work. When I would visit the restaurant to have dinner or help with special events, Marcus would present himself as a dedicated, hard-working employee when David was watching, but would make comments to me about how boring the work was, how the other employees were slow or incompetent, and how he was learning valuable business skills that would help him advance quickly beyond entry-level positions. "Mom, I'm just doing this to learn Dad's business and prove that I can handle restaurant operations," he would explain when I questioned his attitude toward colleagues and routine tasks. But honestly, most of this work is pretty mindless, and I can see ways to improve efficiency and modernize operations that would make everything run better. Marcus was developing the dangerous combination of confidence without competence and ambition, without respect, that would eventually lead him to treat family members, employees, and anyone he perceived as less powerful than himself with the kind of dismissive arrogance that destroys relationships and reveals character flaws that make people unsuitable for leadership positions in industries that require genuine care for others. When David was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in early 2021, we spent his final 14 months working together intensively to ensure that his hospitality empire would transition smoothly while maintaining the service standards, client relationships, and staff loyalty that had made the businesses successful and sustainable over decades of careful development and community building. "Margaret, you understand complex operations and staff management better than anyone in the hospitality industry," David told me during one of our detailed planning sessions about estate arrangements and business succession. "You've coordinated luxury events, managed enormous budgets, and supervised teams of culinary professionals for over 30 years. These businesses need someone who understands that hospitality success comes from treating every person with dignity and respect, not someone who views restaurants as personal kingdoms where they can exercise power over others." David's estate planning was sophisticated and protective, designed to preserve the business empire he had built while providing opportunities for Marcus to demonstrate his character and earn greater responsibilities over time based on his actual performance and treatment of employees, customers, and family members, rather than simply inheriting wealth because of family relationships. The legal structure David created gave me complete ownership and control of all 19 hospitality businesses, with full authority to manage operations, make strategic decisions, distribute profits, and ultimately determine succession arrangements based on my observations of Marcus's behavior, character development, and capability to handle the responsibility of employing hundreds of people whose livelihoods would depend on his leadership and business decisions. This arrangement will allow you to observe how Marcus treats you and handles business responsibilities when he believes he's working toward inheritance versus when he discovers that you actually control everything, David had explained with remarkable insight into family dynamics and human psychology. If Marcus demonstrates genuine respect for you as his mother, shows appreciation for your expertise and experience, handles restaurant responsibilities competently, and proves that he can treat staff and customers with dignity regardless of their position, then you can gradually transfer ownership to him over several years while providing guidance and mentorship. But if his behavior reveals that he views you as an obstacle to inheritance, treats you poorly when he thinks you're dependent on his help, or demonstrates that he can't be trusted with business operations that affect hundreds of employees and their families, then you have complete authority to redirect the inheritance to people and organizations that will use the resources more responsibly and treat others with the respect that hospitality businesses require. David's succession planning was essentially creating a multi-year character test that would reveal Marcus's true values, work ethic, and capability to handle substantial responsibility based on his actual behavior toward family, employees, and customers rather than his promises or business school theories about restaurant management. The test would determine whether Marcus possessed the humility, respect for others, and genuine commitment to service excellence that successful hospitality requires, or whether he viewed restaurants as opportunities to exercise power over people, while collecting profits from their hard work without contributing meaningfully to their success, or treating them with the dignity that every person deserves, regardless of their position in the service industry hierarchy. Looking back now with the clarity that comes from painful experience and costly lessons about family respect, I can see that Marcus's character flaws weren't sudden developments that emerged during my vulnerable widowhood years. They were consistent patterns that had been evident since childhood, but that I had consistently rationalized, excused, or attributed to normal developmental phases rather than recognizing them as fundamental personality traits that would define his approach to family relationships and business responsibilities throughout his adult life. Marcus had always been what teachers diplomatically called intelligent but self-serving during his academic years at Westfield Preparatory Academy in Palo Alto. From elementary school through high school graduation, he demonstrated exceptional social charm and strategic thinking that made him popular with teachers, administrators, and classmates. But he consistently struggled with genuine empathy, sustained concern for others, and follow-through on commitments that didn't provide immediate personal recognition or tangible benefits for his own goals and interests. During his elementary school years, Marcus excelled in activities that came naturally to his quick mind and charismatic personality. Student government positions where his speaking abilities and social connections gave him significant advantages over classmates, debate competitions, where his confidence and preparation impressed judges and parents, science fair presentations where his polished delivery and visual aids outshone projects with better research but less sophisticated presentation skills. But Marcus would consistently avoid activities that required patience, sustained collaborative effort, or working with classmates who might slow down his progress or limit his individual achievement and recognition. Group projects became exercises in either completely dominating the work to ensure he received the grade and recognition he wanted, or contributing the absolute minimum effort if he felt his teammates weren't capable of helping him achieve the academic recognition and superior performance that he considered essential for his self-image and future opportunities. Marcus is exceptionally bright and has tremendous potential for leadership roles. His fourth-grade teacher, Mrs. Patterson, wrote in a parent conference report that I still remember word for word because it captured something troubling about Marcus's approach to relationships and collaboration even at 9 years old. However, he seems to have significant difficulty understanding how his actions affect other children, and rarely volunteers to help classmates who are struggling with concepts he has already mastered easily. During our recent group project about California history, Marcus assigned himself the role of presentation coordinator and spent most of the project time rehearsing his speaking parts rather than helping his teammates with research or visual aids, Mrs. Patterson had explained during our parent meeting. When his group members struggled with their assigned sections, Marcus's response was to criticize their work rather than offering assistance or adjusting the project structure to ensure everyone could contribute successfully. When David and I discussed this feedback with Marcus, trying to help him understand the importance of kindness, cooperation, and helping others succeed alongside his own achievements, his response revealed the self-centered thinking patterns that would characterize his approach to relationships throughout his childhood and into his adult career and family interactions. Mom and Dad, Why should I spend my time fixing other people's work when I could be making my own parts even better? He asked with genuine puzzlement, as if concern for others' success was an unreasonable expectation that interfered with his individual academic progress. If I spend too much time helping kids who don't understand the assignment, my own presentation might not be as good as it could be, and that could hurt my grade and my reputation as a good student. At 9 years old, Marcus was already developing sophisticated justifications for selfishness that made his lack of empathy and unwillingness to support others sound like logical academic strategy, rather than recognizing that his reluctance to help classmates reflected fundamental character issues that would create problems in future relationships and collaborative situations. Marcus, part of being a good person and a valuable team member is caring about others and helping when we have the ability to make a positive difference, David explained patiently, hoping to instill values of compassion, cooperation, and community, responsibility that would serve him throughout his life. Your mother and I have always taught you that success means lifting others up, not just advancing yourself. But Dad, you also taught me that I should work hard and do my best in school to prepare for college and career success, Marcus replied, using David's lessons about achievement to justify behavior that David would have found disappointing and contrary to his actual values. I think you and Mom would want me to focus on my own excellence rather than getting distracted by other people's problems and limitations. This pattern of selectively remembering lessons that supported his preferred behavior while ignoring values that would require him to sacrifice convenience or personal advantage for others would become a hallmark of Marcus's character throughout his childhood, teenage years, and adult life, including his approach to restaurant management and family caregiving responsibilities. During 5th grade, the concerning patterns intensified when Marcus's teacher, Mr. Rodriguez, specifically requested a parent conference to discuss Marcus's approach to teamwork, peer relationships, and classroom dynamics that had become disruptive to learning environments and concerning from a social development perspective that could affect his long-term relationship, skills, and collaborative abilities. Marcus is clearly one of the most intellectually gifted students I've taught in 18 years of elementary education, Mr. Rodriguez explained during our meeting at Westfield Preparatory Academy. But he consistently demonstrates attitudes toward classmates that suggest he views other children as obstacles to his success, rather than as potential collaborators, friends, or community members deserving basic respect and consideration. What specific behaviors are you observing that concern you? I asked, feeling defensive about criticism of Marcus's academic focus and achievement orientation, but also genuinely worried about reports of social difficulties that could affect his emotional development and future relationship capabilities. Yesterday, during our group science project about renewable energy sources, Marcus told his 3 teammates that they were too slow and too stupid to contribute meaningfully to the assignment that would be graded for the entire team, Mr. Rodriguez explained. With obvious concern about the impact of his behavior on other children's self-confidence and classroom morale, he then completed the entire project himself, including research sections that were specifically assigned to other students, and presented the final work as his individual achievement, rather than acknowledging any team collaboration or input from classmates who had been excluded from the process. When I explained that group projects are designed to teach collaboration skills and that excluding teammates defeated the educational purpose of cooperative learning, Marcus's response was that he didn't care about other students' feelings or learning experiences as long as he received the grade he deserved for his individual effort and superior knowledge. This incident should have been a major warning sign that Marcus was developing concerning attitudes about relationships, teamwork, and responsibilities to others that required immediate attention, correction, and character development guidance. But instead of recognizing it as a serious character issue that needed intensive intervention, David and I chose to interpret his behavior as the natural result of being intellectually advanced in an educational system that didn't always provide appropriate challenges or recognition for gifted students. He's just very driven and wants to excel academically, I explained to Mr. Rodriguez. unconsciously making excuses for behavior that was clearly problematic and hurtful to other children. Marcus has always been competitive and focused on high achievement. Maybe he just needs to be placed with other students who can match his intellectual level and won't slow down his learning process. Mrs. Chen, the concerning issue isn't Marcus's intelligence or academic drive. Mr. Rodriguez replied gently but firmly, trying to help us understand that we were missing the real problem. The issue is his complete lack of concern for how his actions affect other people and his willingness to hurt others emotionally to achieve his personal goals. These are character problems that go far beyond academic placement or intellectual challenge. Marcus needs to learn that success achieved by excluding, dismissing, or hurting others isn't genuine success and won't serve him well in future educational, professional, or personal relationships. He continued with the wisdom of an experienced educator who had observed many bright children struggle with social development. If he doesn't develop empathy and collaborative skills now, he'll face significant difficulties with teamwork and relationship building throughout his life, regardless of how intelligent or academically successful he becomes. This conversation should have prompted serious reflection about Marcus's character development and immediate intervention to address his concerning attitudes about relationships, cooperation, and responsibilities to others. But David and I were dealing with demanding careers, financial pressures, and the general stress of parenting, and we found it easier to focus on Marcus's academic achievements rather than confronting difficult behavioral issues that would require sustained attention, professional guidance, and potentially uncomfortable family conversations about values and expectations. He'll learn to work better with others when he's around people who can keep up with him intellectually, we rationalized, convincing ourselves that Marcus's selfishness and lack of empathy were temporary phases that would resolve naturally as he matured and found more appropriate peer groups in advanced academic programs. The pattern continued and actually intensified during middle school years at Pacific Heights Academy, where Marcus's exceptional academic abilities and social charm earned him placement in accelerated courses and leadership programs that provided intellectual challenges, but also created new opportunities for him to demonstrate his unwillingness to support others or prioritize group success over individual recognition and achievement. In 7th grade, Marcus joined the school's academic decathlon team, which should have been an excellent opportunity for him to learn teamwork while pursuing intellectual challenges that matched his capabilities, but his approach to team participation revealed the depth of his self-centered thinking and his fundamental inability to understand that group success required individual sacrifice, mutual support, and genuine concern for teammates' development and performance. Marcus is incredibly knowledgeable and performs excellently during individual competition segments. His academic decathlon coach, Ms. Foster, explained during a parent meeting requested to discuss team dynamics and Marcus's impact on overall team performance. But he consistently undermines team effectiveness by refusing to help struggling team members improve their performance and by openly expressing frustration and contempt for teammates who don't match his academic level or learning speed. "What specific behaviors are you observing?" David asked, hoping the issues were minor communication problems that could be resolved through better team role definitions or adjusted expectations rather than fundamental character issues that would require more intensive intervention. During practice sessions, Marcus answers questions quickly and correctly, demonstrating impressive knowledge across multiple academic subjects, Ms. Foster explained. But when teammates struggle with similar questions or need additional time to process information, he makes comments like, "This is obviously basic knowledge," or, "How do you not understand something this simple?" rather than offering assistance, encouragement, or constructive guidance that could help improve team performance. More concerning, when I've asked Marcus to help tutor struggling teammates or share study strategies that have made him successful, he's consistently refused, saying that other students' poor performance isn't his responsibility and that he shouldn't have to sacrifice his own preparation time to help people who aren't smart enough to be on the team anyway. This feedback revealed that Marcus's selfishness was becoming more pronounced and calculated as he matured, rather than improving through natural social development or learning from educational experiences designed to teach cooperation and mutual support. He was actively choosing to prioritize his individual success over team achievement, and was willing to hurt others emotionally to maintain his sense of superiority and academic dominance. Marcus had also begun developing sophisticated strategies for managing his public image while protecting his selfish behavior from adult observation and criticism. During official team meetings and competitions where coaches and parents were present, he would demonstrate appropriate teamwork and supportive behavior that made him appear to be a collaborative and encouraging teammate. But during informal practice, sessions and study groups where adult supervision was minimal, Marcus would revert to dismissive and sometimes openly hostile behavior toward teammates who needed assistance or whose performance didn't meet his standards. He had learned to present different versions of himself depending on who was watching and what kind of impression would benefit his goals and reputation. When David and I discussed this behavior with Marcus, his response demonstrated that he had developed increasingly sophisticated justifications for his lack of empathy and unwillingness to support others, making his selfishness sound like logical strategy rather than character flaws that needed correction. Mom and Dad, I joined academic decathlon to challenge myself intellectually and compete at high levels that will enhance my college application portfolio, he explained with the kind of confident, analytical tone that made his selfishness sound like responsible academic planning. If other students can't keep up with team requirements, that's not my fault, and it's not my job to fix their academic deficiencies or emotional problems. But Marcus, part of being on a team is helping your teammates succeed and contributing to overall group performance, David replied, trying to help him understand basic principles of collaboration, leadership, and mutual support that would be essential for future success in college, career, and personal relationships. But Dad, if I spend my limited time teaching other people things they should already know, I won't have adequate time to prepare properly for my own competition areas, he argued with logic that made his self-focus sound like strategic time management. That could hurt my individual scores and reduce my chances for academic recognition, scholarship opportunities, and college admissions advantages. Besides, he added, revealing the depth of his self-centered thinking and lack of empathy for others, if these kids can't handle academic decathlon requirements without constant tutoring and support, maybe they shouldn't be on the team in the first place. The team would be stronger and more successful with better students who don't need remedial help to meet basic performance standards. Marcus was 13 years old and already demonstrating the kind of ruthless self-interest and dismissive attitude toward others that would characterize his approach to family relationships, business partnerships, and employee management throughout his adult life. He viewed other people as either useful for achieving his goals or as obstacles to be avoided or eliminated, rather than understanding that relationships require mutual care, support, and consideration regardless of immediate personal benefit or convenience. The most troubling aspect of this pattern was that Marcus's selfishness and lack of empathy were often rewarded in academic and social contexts that prioritized individual achievement over character development and collaborative skills. His high test scores, academic awards, debate competition victories, and articulate presentation abilities earned praise from teachers, admiration from peers, and recognition from college preparation programs, while his unwillingness to support others was often overlooked or excused as the natural behavior of a high-achieving student focused on academic excellence. During 8th and 9th grades at Pacific Heights Academy, Marcus's academic success continued to mask his character flaws and provide justification for increasingly self-centered behavior that prioritized his individual achievement over family relationships, community involvement, and moral development that David and I had tried to emphasize throughout his childhood. He earned straight A's in advanced placement courses, won regional debate competitions, received recognition for his Model United Nations performances, and was accepted into prestigious summer academic programs that enhanced his high school preparation and college prospects. But his approach to family responsibilities during this period revealed the concerning patterns that would eventually define his treatment of me during my widowhood years, when he believed I was vulnerable and financially dependent on his support and attention. When David's restaurant business faced challenges during the 2020 pandemic that required family members to help with additional responsibilities and support during a difficult period, Marcus's response revealed his fundamental inability to prioritize family needs over his personal comfort, academic interests, and social activities that he considered more important than supporting his father's business during a crisis that threatened our family's financial security. Marcus, Dad's restaurants are struggling because of pandemic restrictions, and we need everyone to help more with business operations and family responsibilities while we navigate this challenging period, I explained during a family meeting. After several of David's establishments had been forced to close temporarily, and others were operating at reduced capacity with significant revenue losses. That means everyone taking on additional responsibilities around the house and being supportive while Dad works extra hours to keep the businesses operating and prevent staff layoffs during this difficult time. Marcus's immediate response was revealing and deeply troubling. How long is this pandemic situation expected to last? Because I have some really important academic competitions and college preparation activities scheduled this year that I can't afford to miss or perform poorly in if I want to maintain my competitive position for top-tier university admissions. Marcus, your father's business is facing a crisis that could affect our entire family's financial future, I said, shocked by his focus on academic convenience rather than family crisis, and his father's business and emotional needs during this frightening and uncertain time. We don't know exactly how long pandemic challenges will continue or what the recovery process will involve. But family needs have to come first during this difficult period, and that means everyone adjusting their schedules and priorities to provide support and help where it's needed. I understand that Dad's business is having problems, he replied with the careful, measured tone that indicated he was saying what he thought we wanted to hear, rather than expressing genuine concern, empathy, or willingness to make necessary sacrifices for family support. But I also can't let business problems negatively impact my chances for academic scholarships, college admissions, and the future opportunities I've been working toward for years. That wouldn't be good for anyone. In our family in the long run, David, who was sitting right there listening to this conversation despite feeling exhausted and emotionally devastated by the financial challenges threatening businesses he had built over decades of hard work, looked deeply hurt, but not entirely. Surprised by Marcus's reaction and his immediate focus on how business problems might inconvenience him, rather than showing concern for his father's well-being or offering support during this crisis. Marcus, I'm not asking you to sacrifice your education or abandon your academic goals, he said quietly, with the patience and love of a father trying to maintain family relationships despite facing potential business failure and needing support from his family during the most challenging period of his professional life. I'm just hoping you'll be around more to help your mother with household responsibilities and maybe spend some time helping with restaurant operations when I need extra assistance during this difficult period. Of course I'll help when I can. Marcus agreed readily, with the kind of immediate compliance that sounded cooperative, but was actually conditional and limited. But I need to make sure that family responsibilities don't interfere with my academic priorities, college preparation, deadlines, or my performance in competitions and activities that are crucial for my university applications and scholarship opportunities. What became clear over the following months of David's business struggles was that Marcus's definition of helping when I can meant helping only when it was convenient for his schedule, didn't require him to sacrifice anything he actually wanted to do, and didn't interfere with his academic timeline or social activities that he considered more important than supporting his struggling father and stressed mother during the most difficult period our family had ever faced. Marcus's availability for family support was consistently limited by academic commitments, extracurricular activities, social plans, and personal interests that he presented as non-negotiable obligations that took priority over family business needs and caregiving responsibilities. When David needed help with restaurant inventory management, because several staff members had been laid off and he was trying to handle operations with reduced personnel, Marcus was consistently unavailable due to academic obligations that he characterized as essential for his future success and more important than family business needs. "I have advanced placement study group today," he would say when asked to help with restaurant operations that were becoming overwhelming for David to manage alone. Missing these sessions could affect my test scores, which determine my college placement and scholarship eligibility. These opportunities can't be rescheduled, and my academic future depends on maintaining perfect attendance and performance. "I have Model UN preparation today," he would explain, when David needed assistance with supplier negotiations and vendor management that had become more complex during pandemic-related supply chain disruptions. Coach said missing preparation sessions could hurt my chances for leadership positions in the program, which is really important for my college application portfolio and could determine scholarship opportunities. "I promised my study partner I'd help her with calculus preparation," he would offer when I asked him to spend time with David, who was feeling isolated, depressed, and anxious during business challenges that threatened everything he had worked to build over decades of careful development and community investment. The irony was both obvious and painful. Marcus was always available to help friends, classmates, study partners, and teachers with their academic projects, social plans, and personal needs, but never seemed to have time to help his own father during business challenges that were literally a matter of financial survival for our family. He had learned to present himself as helpful, reliable, and caring to the outside world while reserving his most selfish behavior for family members who loved him unconditionally and had made enormous sacrifices to provide him with educational opportunities, financial support, and the stable home environment that enabled his academic success. When David's health began declining during Marcus's junior year of high school, and the business challenges became more severe, Marcus's absence from family life became even more pronounced and deliberate. Instead of recognizing that his father was facing serious health problems and business threats that required family presence during what might be a critical period, Marcus seemed to increase his involvement in extracurricular activities and social commitments that kept him away from home and unavailable for family support responsibilities. "Marcus, your father is really struggling right now with health issues and business challenges that are affecting his emotional well-being and our family's financial security," I said during one of many conversations where I tried to help him understand the gravity of David's situation and the importance of family support during business and health crises. "He needs to know that his family loves him and that we're all committed to spending time with him and supporting him through this incredibly difficult period." "I do love Dad," Marcus replied with what sounded like genuine confusion about why his behavior might suggest otherwise. "But I don't see how me sitting around the house being worried and stressed is going to help him solve his business problems or improve his health outcomes. I think Dad would want me to keep focusing on my future success and academic achievements, rather than getting depressed and distracted by family problems." "It's not about sitting around being worried," I explained with increasing frustration, "about his inability to understand basic family support concepts. It's about being present and available when he needs emotional support, companionship, or practical help. It's about showing him that he's more important to you than your extracurricular activities, social plans, and academic competitions." "But Mom, these activities are crucial for my college applications and my future opportunities," Marcus protested with logic that made his selfishness sound like responsible life planning. "Dad always told me that education and achievement should be my top priorities. I'm just following the values and advice he's given me throughout my childhood." Marcus had developed a sophisticated ability to reframe his selfishness as virtue, presenting his unwillingness to sacrifice for family as evidence that he was following family values about education and achievement, rather than acknowledging that he simply didn't want to deal with the emotional demands, time commitments, and personal inconvenience of supporting a struggling father and overwhelmed mother during a family business and health crisis. He could make his absence during our family's greatest need sound like dedication to principles and responsible planning, rather than recognizing that his priorities revealed fundamental character flaws and a lack of empathy that would define his approach to relationships throughout his adult life. When David was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer during Marcus's senior year of high school, his response was notably detached, practical, and self-focused rather than emotional, supportive, or concerned about family healing and adjustment to our devastating diagnosis. While I was overwhelmed by fear and struggling to manage household responsibilities, business decisions, medical appointments, and emotional recovery while supporting Marcus through his final year of high school, Marcus seemed primarily concerned about how David's cancer might affect his college application timeline, scholarship opportunities, and academic performance during senior year. "I know this is a difficult time for everyone," he said during our family meeting about David's diagnosis and treatment plans, demonstrating his ability to acknowledge family crisis without actually providing emotional support or practical assistance during our most challenging period. "But I need to make sure that Dad's illness doesn't negatively impact my college applications or early admission deadlines. I've been working toward these goals for years, and I can't afford to fall behind in my preparation now when everything depends on maintaining my academic performance." "Marcus, your father has been diagnosed with cancer," I said, hardly able to believe we were having this conversation about college applications during the most painful and disorienting period of our family's life. "College deadlines can wait a few weeks while we handle medical appointments, treatment planning, and begin adjusting to this enormous challenge that has changed everything about our future." "But Mom, early admission deadlines are completely non-negotiable," he replied with the kind of logical, unemotional tone that made his selfishness sound reasonable and responsible, rather than recognizing that his focus on personal advancement during family tragedy revealed serious character problems. Dad would want me to stay focused on my academic goals and future success. The best way to honor his situation is to achieve the educational and career success he always wanted for me. David had indeed wanted Marcus to be successful, and had consistently emphasized the importance of education, hard work, and achievement throughout his childhood and teenage years. But he had also emphasized the importance of family loyalty, character development, moral integrity, empathy for others, and supporting family members during difficult times and major life transitions. Marcus was selectively remembering only the lessons about individual achievement that justified his preferred behavior, while completely ignoring the values about family responsibility, mutual support, and character development that would have required him to sacrifice his convenience, adjust his timeline, and prioritize family needs during our period of greatest vulnerability and need. During the weeks following David's cancer diagnosis, when I was struggling with overwhelming fear, complex medical decisions, insurance coordination, business management concerns, and the practical challenges of managing household responsibilities while working full-time and supporting a teenage son, Marcus's primary concern was ensuring that his college application essays properly leveraged David's illness for maximum emotional impact with admissions committees. "I'm writing my main personal statement about how Dad's cancer diagnosis taught me about resilience, family strength, and overcoming adversity," he announced one evening while I was going through David's business papers, trying to understand treatment options and coordinate care while maintaining restaurant operations that employed dozens of people whose families depended on steady income. "What did you learn about resilience and family strength?" I asked, genuinely curious since Marcus had seemed to avoid most of the actual challenges that David's illness and business struggles had created for our family, preferring to maintain his normal schedule and activities rather than participating in caregiving, medical support, or family crisis management. "Well, watching Dad face cancer taught me that successful people don't let obstacles and setbacks prevent them from achieving their goals," Marcus explained with the confidence of someone who had observed others' struggles without actually participating in them or making meaningful sacrifices. And seeing how you managed work responsibilities and household duties while dealing with Dad's illness showed me the importance of staying focused on your obligations and commitments, even when personal problems are trying to distract you from your priorities. The essay Marcus eventually produced was skillfully written and emotionally manipulative, presenting him as someone who had learned profound lessons about family loyalty, personal strength, and overcoming adversity through his father's illness and business challenges. But the reality was that Marcus had learned to observe other people's struggles and extract useful narratives from family crises without actually providing support, making sacrifices, or participating meaningfully in the caregiving and emotional work that family, medical, and business emergencies require. Marcus's essay helped him gain admission to Stanford University, with substantial scholarship support that covered most of his tuition and fees. And I was proud of his academic achievement, even while recognizing that his success had been built on avoiding, rather than embracing, the family responsibilities and character development opportunities that David's illness and business struggles had created. Funded the remaining costs of Marcus's college education through careful management of David's business operations and my own savings, committed to providing him with the educational opportunities that David and I had always planned, regardless of the character concerns that had emerged during his teenage years and his response to our family medical and business crisis. College will help Marcus mature and develop better perspectives on relationships, responsibilities, and character, I told myself, when friends and family members commented on his self-centered behavior and lack of family involvement during David's illness and business struggles. Being around diverse people, facing new challenges, and gaining independence will help him grow into the kind of caring, responsible adult that David would be proud of. The patterns that would eventually cost Marcus access to $23.4 million in inherited wealth were already clearly established by the time he left for college. Patterns of prioritizing personal convenience over family loyalty, calculating the benefits of relationships rather than providing unconditional support, and viewing others' needs as obstacles to his individual success rather than opportunities to demonstrate character and build meaningful connections based on mutual care and respect. During Marcus's college years at Stanford University, the concerning patterns that had emerged during high school intensified rather than improved, revealing that his self-centered approach to relationships wasn't a temporary phase of adolescent development, but a fundamental aspect of his character that would define his interactions with family, friends, professors, and professional colleagues throughout his adult life. Marcus's college experience from 2018 to 2022 should have provided opportunities for personal growth, character development, and broader perspective on relationships and responsibilities that come from living independently, facing new challenges, and interacting with diverse groups of people from different backgrounds, value systems, and socioeconomic circumstances. Instead, his university years became a laboratory for refining manipulation tactics, developing more sophisticated justifications for selfish behavior, and learning to extract maximum benefit from relationships while minimizing his own investment in supporting others. During Marcus's freshman year, our communication followed predictable patterns that revealed his transactional approach to family relationships. He maintained regular contact when he needed something specific: financial support for expenses that weren't covered by his scholarship and my educational contributions, career advice for internship applications, networking connections through my professional relationships in the hospitality industry, or practical assistance with housing arrangements, transportation logistics, or academic planning that required adult guidance and support. Our conversations during this period were pleasant but superficial, focused primarily on his achievements, social activities, academic progress, and future career plans, rather than on building deeper emotional connections, expressing genuine interest in my adjustment to widowhood, or demonstrating appreciation for the financial sacrifices I was making to fund his education, while managing David's business properties and my own career responsibilities during a period of significant personal and professional transition. "How are your classes going this semester?" I would ask during our weekly phone calls, hoping to maintain connection and show interest in his college experience and academic development. "Really well?" He would reply with enthusiasm about his academic progress and social activities. "I'm maintaining a 3.8 GPA in my business administration program with a focus on hospitality management, and I've been selected for a competitive internship program with a luxury hotel chain that could lead to excellent job opportunities after graduation." "That's wonderful, Marcus. How are you feeling emotionally about adjusting to college life and being away from home for the first time?" "Oh, I'm doing great with independence," he would respond with obvious eagerness to redirect our conversation away from emotional topics and toward practical matters where I could provide tangible benefits for his career development or personal goals. "Actually, speaking of my internship, I wanted to ask if you could put me in touch with your contact at the Ritz-Carlton corporate office. A personal recommendation from someone with your industry experience would really help my application stand out from other candidates." Marcus had developed an impressive ability to redirect conversations away from emotional connection, family relationships, or topics that might require him to provide support or express concern for others, instead steering our interactions toward areas where he could gain useful contacts, advice, or resources that advanced his personal and professional objectives. This pattern continued throughout his college years, with Marcus maintaining the minimum level of family contact necessary to preserve access to financial support and networking opportunities while avoiding deeper engagement with family relationships that might require emotional investment, time commitment, or reciprocal support for my own challenges and needs during the difficult adjustment period following David's death. Marcus's approach to his internship and early professional experiences during college revealed the same self-focused patterns that had characterized his academic and family relationships throughout high school. He excelled at tasks that provided individual recognition and advancement opportunities, but consistently struggled with collaborative projects, teamwork responsibilities, and supporting colleagues who needed assistance or mentoring. During his sophomore year internship with Prestige Hospitality Group, Marcus's supervisor, Jennifer Walsh, contacted me to discuss his performance and work approach in ways that echoed the concerns his teachers had raised throughout his academic career about his inability to function effectively in collaborative environments. "Mrs. Chen, Marcus is exceptionally talented and demonstrates excellent analytical skills and business acumen," Ms. Walsh explained during a phone conversation about Marcus's internship evaluation. "But we've noticed some concerning patterns in his approach to teamwork and colleague relationships that could limit his long-term success in hospitality management, which requires building and maintaining professional relationships based on trust, cooperation, and mutual support." "What specific issues are you observing?" I asked, though I suspected the problems were similar to the patterns Marcus had displayed throughout his academic career and family relationships. "Marcus excels at individual projects and assignments where he can control all aspects of the work and receive full credit for successful outcomes," Ms. Walsh explained. "But when assigned to team projects or asked to mentor junior interns, he consistently prioritizes his own advancement and recognition over group success or collaborative achievement. For example, during our recent guest satisfaction analysis project that involved teams of interns working together to evaluate service quality across multiple hotel properties, Marcus completed his assigned research thoroughly and professionally, but refused to share insights or assist teammates who were struggling with their portions of the analysis. When we asked him to help train a new intern who was having difficulty with our property management software, Marcus's response was that training others wasn't part of his job description, and that he had joined the internship program to advance his own skills and career prospects, not to provide free tutoring for people who should already understand basic hospitality concepts. This feedback revealed that Marcus's self-centered approach to relationships was extending into his professional development and career preparation, where his unwillingness to support others and contribute to team success could seriously limit His long-term advancement opportunities in industries that require collaboration, relationship building, and mutual support among colleagues and business partners. When I discussed this evaluation with Marcus, his response demonstrated that he had continued developing increasingly sophisticated justifications for his selfish behavior, presenting his unwillingness to help others as strategic career management, rather than recognizing that his approach reflected character flaws that could damage his professional reputation and limit his opportunities for advancement and leadership roles. Mom, internships are competitive opportunities where we're being evaluated for potential job offers and professional recommendations, he explained with the confident tone that made his selfishness sound like intelligent business strategy. If I spend my limited time helping other interns, instead of focusing on my own projects and skill development, I could hurt my own performance evaluation and reduce my chances for excellent references and job opportunities. But Marcus, hospitality management is a relationship-based industry where success depends on building networks, establishing trust, and demonstrating that you can work effectively with colleagues, staff, and guests, I replied, trying to help him understand that professional success requires collaborative skills and reputation for supporting others. That's exactly why I need to focus on proving my individual capabilities and establishing my personal brand as a high-performing professional, he countered with logic that completely missed the point about teamwork and mutual support. If I develop a reputation as someone who gets distracted by other people's problems instead of delivering excellent results, that could hurt my career prospects more than being known as someone who prioritizes excellence and individual achievement. Marcus was already developing the calculating approach to professional relationships that would later characterize his restaurant management style and family interactions, viewing other people as either useful for his advancement or as obstacles to be avoided, rather than understanding that genuine success requires building authentic relationships based on mutual benefit and long-term collaboration. During his junior and senior years at Stanford University, Marcus's academic performance remained excellent, but his approach to family relationships became increasingly distant and transactional as he became more confident about his career prospects and less dependent on immediate family support for day-to-day college expenses and academic guidance. His visits home became less frequent and shorter in duration, usually timed around holidays or occasions when he needed specific assistance with job applications, professional networking, or financial support for expenses related to his final years of college and career preparation activities. More concerning was Marcus's attitude toward my own life circumstances and the challenges I was facing as a widow managing David's business, properties while maintaining my demanding hospital consulting work, and adjusting to significant changes in my personal and financial circumstances. When I mentioned difficulties with restaurant management decisions, staff relationships, or business challenges that required learning new skills and taking on responsibilities that David had previously handled, Marcus's responses were consistently focused on how these issues might affect his expected inheritance, rather than offering support, assistance, or genuine concern for my well-being and stress levels. Mom, are you having problems with the restaurants that could affect their values or profitability? He would ask when I described challenges with staff management, supplier negotiations, or market changes that required careful analysis and strategic planning. It's not that I'm having problems exactly, I would explain, but managing 19 restaurant properties while maintaining my consulting work is demanding, and I sometimes feel overwhelmed by the complexity of business decisions that your father used to handle with years of experience and industry expertise. Maybe you should consider hiring a professional restaurant management company to handle the day-to-day operations, Marcus would suggest, apparently without recognizing that professional management fees would reduce the profits that he expected to inherit. Or, he would add, revealing his assumptions about business ownership and inheritance arrangements. You could simplify things by transferring the restaurants to me now so I can start learning the business and taking over management responsibilities. That would reduce your stress and give me valuable hospitality experience for my career development. Marcus was already positioning himself to take control of David's business empire, based on his assumption that he was the intended heir, without recognizing that his treatment of me during my vulnerable widowhood period was actually providing information about his character and capabilities that would determine whether he could be trusted with generational wealth and family business responsibilities. During his senior year, as graduation approached and Marcus prepared to enter the hospitality industry professionally, his sense of entitlement about inheritance and his assumptions about my role in managing the business properties until ownership transferred to him became more pronounced and explicit. "Mom, I've been thinking about my career plans after graduation, and I think it would make sense for me to start taking over Dad's restaurants now so I can learn the business while building my professional experience," he announced during a visit home in early 2022, several months before his graduation. "I could handle the day-to-day management while you focus on your consulting work, and then we could gradually transition full ownership to me over the next few years as I prove my capabilities and establish myself in the hospitality industry." Marcus, the restaurants are complex businesses that require experience, relationships with staff and suppliers, understanding of market conditions, and management skills that take time to develop, I replied, testing his assumptions about inheritance and his appreciation for the work required to maintain successful restaurant operations. "I understand they're complicated," he agreed readily, "but I have a business degree with hospitality focus, internship experience in hotel management, and the intelligence to learn whatever skills I need. Besides, it would be more efficient to have someone younger managing the restaurants who can build long-term relationships with staff and implement modern business practices that could increase profitability." "What about my financial security and retirement planning?" I asked, curious about whether Marcus had considered how transferring business ownership would affect my income and future stability. "The profits from these restaurants are a significant part of my financial plan for retirement and aging." "Well, obviously you would continue receiving income from the restaurants," Marcus replied with the vague confidence of someone who hadn't actually calculated the financial implications of his proposals. "We'd structure the ownership transfer so that you maintain financial security, while I gain the experience and business development opportunities that would benefit the whole family's long-term wealth." Marcus's approach to inheritance planning revealed that he had never seriously considered my financial needs, retirement security, or the possibility that I might want to maintain control of business assets that provided both income and financial independence during my later years. He was already assuming that restaurant ownership would transfer to him based on family relationships rather than earning the responsibility through demonstrated character, competence, and genuine concern for family welfare. After Marcus's graduation, in May 2022, he accepted a position with Premier Restaurant Group, a mid-sized hospitality company in San Francisco that specialized in upscale dining establishments, corporate catering services, and event management similar to David's business. Portfolio. His starting salary of $68,000 annually plus performance bonuses provided him with financial independence and professional advancement prospects that should have reduced his focus on inheritance expectations and allowed him to build his own career. Success. Instead, his new professional position seemed to increase his confidence about his business capabilities and strengthen his assumptions about taking over David's restaurants as both inheritance and career opportunity that would accelerate his advancement in the hospitality industry. During his first year of professional work, Marcus's approach to our family relationship became increasingly focused on positioning himself as the logical successor to David's business empire, while demonstrating minimal interest in my personal welfare, retirement planning, or the emotional and practical challenges I continued to face as a widow, managing complex business responsibilities while working full-time and planning for my own future security. Mom, now that I'm working in restaurant management professionally, I can see how much more efficiently Dad's restaurants could be operated with modern systems and strategic improvements, he would announce during his monthly visits, which had become brief consultations focused on business matters rather than family relationship building or mutual support. I've been analyzing the profit margins, staff productivity metrics, and operational procedures, and I think there are significant opportunities to increase profitability and business values through more aggressive management and strategic modernization. What kind of changes are you thinking about? I would ask, curious about his understanding of the staff relationships and management philosophy that had made David's restaurants successful for decades. Well, several of the restaurants are carrying too many staff members because Dad apparently never optimized labor costs to match current industry standards, he would explain with the confidence of someone who believed that maximum profit extraction was the primary goal of restaurant management. We could probably increase monthly profits by 12 to 15% just by reducing staff levels to match productivity benchmarks and eliminating positions that don't directly contribute to revenue generation. Marcus, your father maintained stable staff relationships by balancing operational efficiency with employee welfare and job security, I would reply, trying to help him understand that David's management approach prioritized long-term sustainability over short-term profit maximization. Many of these employees have been with us for years because they appreciate consistent employment, fair wages, and working conditions that respect their contributions to restaurant success. But Mom, carrying excess staff costs reduces the overall profitability of the restaurant portfolio, he would argue with the kind of business school logic that ignored the human relationships and community loyalty that David had considered essential for long-term success. Besides, if employees can't meet current productivity standards, that probably means they're not strong enough performers to justify their compensation anyway. It's better to find new staff members who can work more efficiently rather than subsidizing underperforming employees who might be holding back overall restaurant performance. Marcus's approach to restaurant management revealed the same patterns of short-term thinking and lack of empathy that had characterized his academic and family relationships throughout his development. He was focused on immediate financial gains, rather than understanding that successful restaurants require building and maintaining relationships based on trust, mutual benefit, and long-term sustainability. More concerning was his attitude toward my role in restaurant management and decision-making as he gained professional experience and confidence in his business capabilities. Instead of recognizing that I had been successfully managing the restaurants for over a year, while learning complex business skills and maintaining staff relationships, Marcus seemed to view my management as temporary placeholder activity until he could take control and implement his preferred strategies. Mom, I really think it's time for me to start taking on more responsibility for the restaurants, he would suggest during our business discussions. You're doing a good job maintaining operations, but you don't have professional restaurant experience, and there are opportunities for improvement and growth that require industry expertise and strategic planning. I'm willing to learn and gradually take on more responsibilities, he would continue, presenting himself as generous for offering to relieve me of business burdens that he assumed I found overwhelming and stressful. It would be better for everyone if someone with professional training and industry connections handled the more complex aspects of restaurant management while you focus on your consulting work and personal interests. Marcus was positioning himself as the solution to problems that didn't actually exist, creating artificial urgency about transferring control of businesses that were operating successfully under my management, and assuming that his recent college graduation and entry-level professional experience qualified him to manage multi-million-dollar restaurant portfolios, better than someone who had been successfully handling the responsibilities for over a year. But what Marcus didn't understand was that his approach to business relationships, family dynamics, and restaurant management was providing me with invaluable information about his character, values, and capability to handle generational wealth responsibly. Every conversation about inheritance, every suggestion about management changes, and every assumption about my limitations and his superior qualifications was revealing aspects of his personality that would ultimately determine whether he could be trusted with the business empire that David had worked decades to build and preserve. I was observing not just his professional competence and business knowledge, but his fundamental approach to relationships, responsibility, and moral obligations. When he believed he was positioned to gain control of substantial assets and financial resources. His treatment of me during this period, when he assumed I was dependent on his expertise and grateful for his willingness to take over complex business responsibilities, was providing critical data about how he would handle power, wealth, and relationships with people he viewed as less capable or important than himself. During 2023, as Marcus established himself professionally and continued building his case for taking over restaurant management responsibilities, his treatment of my minor concerns and routine needs revealed troubling patterns that foreshadowed his response to more serious situations that would require sustained family support and personal sacrifice. When I mentioned routine challenges with restaurant operations, Marcus's responses were consistently focused on using these situations as evidence that I needed his assistance rather than offering genuine support or recognizing that learning complex business skills requires time and patience. If I asked for advice about staff management issues or supplier negotiations, his first reaction was always to suggest that these challenges demonstrated why I should transfer management responsibilities to him rather than offering guidance that would help me develop the skills and confidence needed to handle these situations successfully. Mom, maybe these management challenges are a sign that you should consider stepping back from day-to-day restaurant operations, he would suggest when I mentioned difficulties with staff scheduling or inventory management. Restaurant management is really a full-time profession that requires years of experience and industry knowledge to handle effectively. Or, he would add, revealing his preferred solution to any business challenges I faced, you could transfer operational control to me so I can handle these complex issues while you enjoy retirement and focus on personal interests without the stress of managing business problems that require professional expertise. Marcus was already demonstrating that he viewed my business challenges as opportunities to advance his own agenda rather than chances to provide family support and assistance. He was establishing patterns of responding to my needs with suggestions that would benefit him rather than offering help that would strengthen my capabilities and confidence. More troubling was his attitude toward my personal life and social activities during this period. When I mentioned spending time with friends, pursuing hobbies, or engaging in social activities that brought me joy and fulfillment during my adjustment to widowhood, Marcus's responses revealed that he viewed these activities as frivolous distractions that interfered with my focus on business management and inheritance planning. Mom, I'm glad you're staying social and active, he would say with the tone of someone humoring an elderly relative's harmless activities. But maybe you should be focusing more on learning restaurant management skills if you want to continue handling Dad's businesses effectively. These social activities are nice, but they're not really preparing you for the complex business decisions that restaurant ownership requires, he would continue, presenting my personal happiness and social connections as obstacles to proper business management, rather than recognizing that maintaining friendships and pursuing interests was essential for my emotional well-being and life satisfaction. Marcus was developing the attitude that my life should revolve around managing his expected inheritance and preparing for the transfer of wealth and responsibilities to him, rather than understanding that I was entitled to pursue my own interests, maintain my own relationships, and make decisions about my time and energy based on my personal needs and preferences rather than his convenience and advancement goals. The stage was being set for Marcus to face the ultimate test of his character during a situation that would require him to prioritize family relationships over personal convenience and demonstrate whether he viewed me as a family member deserving respect and care, or as an inconvenient obligation that could be exploited when providing support interfered with his preferred schedule and personal priorities. Marcus's response to my apparent vulnerability and need for assistance would determine whether he retained access to $23.4 million in restaurant businesses and continued benefiting from the hospitality empire that funded his comfortable lifestyle, or whether that wealth would be permanently redirected to benefit people and organizations that demonstrated genuine respect for elderly individuals and their inherent dignity. The birthday celebration that seemed like a family gathering would become the most expensive night of Marcus's life, and the cleaning tasks that followed would teach him that assuming elderly parents are powerless can result in consequences that destroy everything you thought you were working toward, and leave you facing a future very different from what you had planned and expected. During the months leading up to my 70th birthday in March 2023, Marcus's behavior toward me had established clear patterns of conditional respect, calculated assistance, and assumptions about my dependence on his support and expertise that would be tested during what should have been a celebration of my life and our family relationship. Instead of recognizing my birthday as an opportunity to demonstrate appreciation, love, and gratitude for the mother who had supported his education, funded his opportunities, and maintained the business empire he expected to inherit, Marcus would reveal his true character during a night that exposed his fundamental lack of respect for elderly family members and his willingness to exploit apparent vulnerability for his personal convenience and entertainment. The evening that was supposed to celebrate my 70 years of life would instead become a humiliating demonstration of how Marcus viewed me when he believed I had no power to defend myself or deliver consequences for disrespectful treatment. But he had no idea that the mother he was planning to exploit and humiliate actually controlled every aspect of his professional environment and had the power to reward genuine family devotion or deliver consequences more expensive than he could. Imagine for family betrayal and disrespect during vulnerable moments. The birthday party that seemed like family celebration would become the catalyst for teaching Marcus that assumptions about elderly parents' powerlessness can destroy everything you thought you were working toward in ways that change your entire future permanently and irreversibly. The evening that would reveal Marcus's true character and cost him access to $23.4 million in restaurant businesses began on Friday, March 17, 2023, my 70th birthday, with what Marcus had presented as a special family celebration at Chen's Palace, the flagship restaurant that had been the crown jewel of David's hospitality empire and was now generating over $2.1 million annually in revenue that Marcus believed would soon be under his control and management. I had been looking forward to this birthday celebration for weeks, hoping it would be an opportunity to reconnect with Marcus and perhaps see evidence that his character had matured during his first year of professional work in the hospitality industry. At 70 years old, I was grateful for my health, proud of how I had managed David's business empire during my widowhood, and optimistic about spending meaningful time with my son during what I hoped would be a loving family celebration of this milestone birthday. Marcus had insisted on organizing every detail of the evening, telling me repeatedly how special he wanted to make this celebration and how important it was to him to honor my 70th birthday with an event that demonstrated his appreciation for everything I had done for our family. He had reserved the private dining room at Chen's Palace, coordinated a special menu with the head chef, and invited several of my friends and colleagues from the hospitality industry to join us for what he described as an elegant, sophisticated evening that would be worthy of my years of service and achievement. "Mom, this is going to be such a special night," Marcus had told me during one of our planning conversations. "I want to show you how much I appreciate everything you've done for our family and how grateful I am for all the sacrifices you've made to support my education and career development. This birthday celebration is my way of saying thank you for being such an amazing mother and business partner." His words had filled me with hope and warmth, suggesting that perhaps his professional experience had taught him valuable lessons about respect, gratitude, and family relationships. I had allowed myself to believe that this birthday celebration might mark a turning point in our relationship and evidence that Marcus was developing the character and maturity that would make him worthy of inheriting David's business legacy. Takatas. Evening began beautifully at 6:30 p.m. when I arrived at Chen's Palace wearing my favorite navy blue dress and the pearl necklace David had given me for our 25th anniversary. The private dining room had been decorated with elegant floral arrangements, soft lighting, and table settings that reflected the sophisticated hospitality standards that had made the restaurant successful for over 2 decades. Marcus greeted me with a warm hug and champagne toast, presenting himself as the devoted son celebrating his beloved mother's milestone birthday. My friends, including former colleagues from Pacific Coast Hotel Management, longtime family friends, and several business associates from the hospitality industry, were already seated and ready to enjoy what promised to be a memorable evening of fine dining, good conversation, and family celebration. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for joining us tonight to celebrate my mother's 70th birthday, Marcus announced during his opening toast, speaking with the polished confidence he had developed through years of public speaking and debate. Competition. Margaret Chen has been an inspiration to everyone who knows her. A woman who has achieved excellence in her career, supported her family through challenges, and maintained grace and dignity through every phase of her life. Tonight is about honoring her achievements, celebrating her wisdom, and showing appreciation for the woman who has made so many sacrifices to support the people she loves, he continued, with words that brought tears to my eyes and made me feel proud of the son I had raised and the man he was becoming. The first 3 hours of the celebration were everything I had hoped for and more. The food was exceptional. A carefully curated menu featuring David's signature dishes prepared with the attention to detail and culinary excellence that had earned Chen's Palace recognition from food critics and loyal customers throughout the Bay Area. The conversation was engaging and meaningful, with friends sharing stories about my career achievements, community involvement, and the positive impact I had made on their lives and professional development. Marcus played the perfect host throughout the dinner, ensuring that guests' wine glasses were filled, engaging in thoughtful conversation about my accomplishments, and presenting himself as a caring son who was genuinely proud of his mother's achievements and grateful for her influence on his life and career development. But as the evening progressed and my guests began leaving around 9:30 p.m., expressing their appreciation for the wonderful celebration and their best wishes for my continued health and happiness, Marcus's demeanor began to shift in ways that made me uncomfortable and concerned about what the rest of the evening might bring. "Mom, I hope you enjoyed the dinner and celebration," he said as we were saying goodbye to the last of my friends. "But the night isn't over yet. I have something special planned for just the two of us, a way to end your birthday celebration that will be really meaningful and memorable." "That sounds wonderful, Marcus," I replied, still feeling warm and grateful from the beautiful dinner, and hoping that whatever he had planned would continue the spirit of love and appreciation that had characterized the evening so far. "I thought it would be meaningful for us to spend some time working together in the restaurant kitchen," he announced with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "You know, getting our hands dirty in the business that Dad built, really understanding the operations from the ground up. It'll be like a bonding experience between mother and son." Something in his tone made me hesitate, but I wanted to maintain the positive spirit of the evening and show appreciation for his thoughtfulness in planning additional celebration activities. "That sounds interesting, Marcus. What did you have in mind?" "Well, the kitchen staff has gone home for the night, but there's always cleaning and preparation work that needs to be done before tomorrow's service," he explained with increasing enthusiasm that seemed disconnected from the actual appeal of kitchen cleaning. "I thought we could work together to get the restaurant ready for tomorrow. You know, really understand what it takes to run a successful operation." "Marcus, it's 10 p.m. on my 70th birthday," I said, beginning to realize that his plan might not be as thoughtful and celebratory as he was presenting it. "Are you really suggesting that we spend the rest of my birthday celebration cleaning restaurant equipment?" "Mom, this isn't just cleaning," he replied with the persuasive tone he had perfected during years of debate competition and academic presentations. "This is about understanding the business, appreciating the work that goes into restaurant operations, and spending quality time together learning about Dad's legacy. Besides, he added, revealing the manipulative logic that would characterize the rest of the evening. If you're going to continue managing these restaurants, you should understand every aspect of the operations, including the behind-the-scenes work that makes excellent service possible. I was beginning to understand that this was not the loving family bonding experience Marcus had described, but I was still hoping that his intentions were genuine and that participating in his plan might lead to meaningful conversation and connection between us. Okay, Marcus, I agreed reluctantly, but let's not make this an all-night project. I'm 70 years old, and I've already had a long day. Of course, Mom, he said with immediate agreement that should have warned me he had no intention of honoring any limitations I might set. This will just be a couple of hours of light work, nothing too demanding or exhausting. What followed was the most humiliating and degrading experience of my entire 70 years of life, revealing Marcus's true character when he believed I was powerless to defend myself and had no choice but to accept whatever treatment he decided to impose on his elderly mother during what should have been a celebration of my life and our family relationship. Marcus led me to the restaurant kitchen and immediately began assigning me tasks that were physically demanding, unnecessarily complex, and clearly designed to demonstrate his power over me rather than providing meaningful learning, experiences, or family bonding opportunities. Mom, let's start with the industrial ovens, he announced with the tone of a supervisor giving orders to a new employee. They need to be completely cleaned and scrubbed before tomorrow's prep work can begin. This includes removing all the racks, cleaning the interior surfaces, scrubbing the heating elements, and making sure everything is spotless and ready for food preparation. The industrial ovens at Chen's Palace were massive commercial units that required significant physical effort to clean properly. The racks were heavy and awkward to maneuver. The interior surfaces were covered with accumulated grease and food residue, and the cleaning process required crawling partially inside the ovens to reach all surfaces with cleaning chemicals that were harsh and difficult to work with. Marcus, this seems like very demanding work for someone my age, I said, hoping he would recognize that assigning intensive physical labor to his 70-year-old mother was inappropriate and disrespectful. Surely, the professional cleaning staff handles this kind of deep cleaning with proper equipment and safety procedures. Mom, if you want to understand restaurant operations, you need to understand all aspects of the business. He replied with dismissive logic that made my concerns sound like excuses for laziness rather than legitimate safety considerations. Dad always said that successful restaurant managers need to know every job in the operation, from cooking to serving to cleaning. Besides, he added with a condescending tone that revealed his true attitude toward my capabilities and deserved respect, this is good exercise for someone your age. Staying active and useful is important for maintaining health and mental sharpness as you get older. Marcus was already demonstrating that he viewed this evening not as family celebration, but as an opportunity to establish dominance over me and demonstrate that he could impose his will without resistance or consequences. He was treating me like an employee he could order around rather than his mother who deserved respect and consideration, especially on her 70th birthday. I spent the next 2 hours crawling in and out of commercial ovens, scrubbing surfaces with harsh cleaning chemicals that irritated my skin and respiratory system, and lifting heavy equipment that strained my back and shoulders, while Marcus supervised my work with criticism and additional demands rather than offering assistance or appreciation for my efforts. Mom, you missed some spots on the heating elements, he would say when I thought I had completed a section. Restaurant standards require perfect cleanliness, so you'll need to go back and do those areas again. The racks aren't clean enough, he would announce after I had spent 30 minutes scrubbing them with steel wool and degreasing agents. Customers expect spotless equipment, so you'll need to keep working until they meet professional standards. Every time I completed a task, Marcus would find additional work that needed to be done, ensuring that the cleaning never ended and that I remained in a subservient position throughout the evening. It was becoming clear that this wasn't about learning restaurant operations or family bonding. It was about Marcus exercising power over someone he believed was vulnerable and dependent on his approval. By midnight, I was exhausted, dirty, and beginning to understand that Marcus had no intention of ending this humiliation anytime soon. My back was aching from bending and crawling, my hands were raw from harsh cleaning chemicals, and my 70-year-old body was struggling with physical demands that would have been challenging for someone half my age. "Marcus, I think we've done enough. Cleaning for one evening," I said, hoping he would recognize that continuing this work was becoming physically harmful and emotionally devastating. "It's been a long day and I'm really tired." "Mom, we can't stop now when there's still so much work to do," he replied with the relentless determination of someone who was enjoying his ability to control and exhaust me. "The restaurant opens for brunch service at 10 a.m. tomorrow, and everything needs to be perfect for our customers. Look around. We've barely made a dent in what needs to be accomplished," he continued, gesturing toward the extensive kitchen. That would have required a full cleaning crew working all night to address completely. "The floor needs to be mopped and sanitized. The prep stations need to be scrubbed and organized. The walk-in cooler needs to be cleaned and restocked, and the dishwashing area needs complete attention." I was beginning to realize that Marcus had planned this as an endurance test, designed to break down my resistance and establish his complete dominance over me. He wasn't interested in teaching me about restaurant operations. He was interested in demonstrating that he could force his 70-year-old mother to perform menial labor for his entertainment and power gratification. "Marcus, this is my 70th birthday," I said with increasing desperation, hoping that reminding him of the occasion might restore some sense of decency and family respect. "I've been celebrating all day, I'm exhausted, and this kind of intensive cleaning is really more than I can handle safely." "Mom, birthdays don't excuse us from responsibilities and commitments," he replied with cold logic that dismissed my age, fatigue, and deserved consideration as irrelevant obstacles to his agenda. "If you want to be involved in restaurant management, you need to understand that this business requires dedication and hard work, regardless of personal convenience or comfort preferences." Besides, he added with a cruel smile that revealed how much he was enjoying my discomfort and powerlessness. "This is character building. Dad always said that hard work builds character and that people need to earn respect through effort and dedication rather than expecting special treatment because of age or family relationships." Marcus was using David's philosophy about work, ethic, and personal responsibility to justify abusing his elderly mother, completely distorting values about dedication and effort to excuse behavior that David would have found horrifying and unacceptable. He was exploiting David's memory to rationalize cruelty that revealed his fundamental lack of respect for family relationships and human dignity. From midnight until 3 a.m., Marcus forced me to continue cleaning with increasingly unreasonable demands and impossible standards that ensured I could never complete the work to his satisfaction. Every task was followed by criticism and additional assignments that kept me working in painful, degrading conditions while he supervised with obvious satisfaction and enjoyment. I scrubbed floors on my hands and knees until my joints ached and my muscles cramped. I cleaned grease traps that required reaching into disgusting, foul-smelling waste that made me nauseous. I reorganized storage areas that required lifting heavy containers and supplies that strained my aging body beyond safe limits. Throughout this ordeal, Marcus provided no assistance, no encouragement, and no recognition of the physical and emotional toll this work was taking on his 70-year-old mother. Instead, he treated me like an incompetent employee whose efforts were never adequate, and whose comfort was irrelevant to the completion of his assigned tasks. "Mom, you're moving too slowly," he would say when fatigue made my movements less efficient. "Restaurant work requires energy and speed, not the leisurely pace you're using." "That's not clean enough," he would announce when I thought I had met reasonable standards. "Professional kitchens require perfection, not the half-hearted effort you're showing." Dad would be disappointed in this level of performance, he would add when he wanted to inflict maximum emotional pain along with the physical exhaustion and humiliation. By 3 a.m., I was barely able to stand. My 70-year-old body was shaking with exhaustion. My hands were bleeding from harsh chemicals and rough surfaces, and my spirit was broken by 3 hours of relentless humiliation and abuse from the son I had raised, educated, and supported throughout his entire life. "Marcus, please," I said with tears in my eyes and desperation in my voice. "I can't continue this anymore. I'm 70 years old, it's 3 a.m., and my body can't handle any more of this work. Can we please go home?" For a moment, I thought I saw a flicker of recognition in his eyes, perhaps some acknowledgement that he had pushed his elderly mother beyond reasonable limits, and that continuing this abuse would cross lines that even he couldn't justify or rationalize. But instead of showing mercy or family compassion, Marcus looked at me with cold satisfaction and delivered the words that would cost him everything he thought he was working toward. "Mom, we're not finished yet," he said with deliberate cruelty, enjoying his complete power over someone he believed was helpless and dependent on his mercy. "You wanted to understand restaurant operations, and restaurant operations don't stop because you're tired or uncomfortable. Real restaurant professionals work through exhaustion and discomfort to ensure that customers receive excellent service," he continued, presenting my physical breakdown as evidence of weakness rather than recognizing that forcing elderly family members to work until 3 a.m. was abusive and unacceptable. "If you can't handle the physical demands of restaurant work, maybe you should reconsider whether you're capable of managing Dad's businesses effectively," he concluded with the ultimate insult, using my exhaustion from his abuse as evidence that I was incompetent and should transfer control of the restaurants to him. This was the moment when Marcus revealed his true character and priorities, when he believed I was powerless and vulnerable. Instead of treating me with respect, compassion, and dignity appropriate for his elderly mother, he had chosen to exploit my apparent helplessness for his entertainment and power gratification, while positioning my breakdown as justification for taking control of the business empire I actually owned and controlled completely. But Marcus had no idea that his decision to humiliate me until 3 a.m. on my 70th birthday would cost him access to generational wealth beyond his comprehension, and that the mother he had treated like unpaid domestic help actually controlled every aspect of his professional environment and had the power to deliver consequences more expensive than he could imagine. During the drive home at 3:15 a.m., with my body aching and my heart broken by my son's cruelty, I made the decision that would change both of our lives forever and teach Marcus the most expensive lesson about assuming elderly parents are powerless and can be abused without consequences. When providing respect requires personal sacrifice rather than personal entertainment. Called my attorney, James Morrison, from the car and left a voicemail scheduling an emergency meeting to make comprehensive changes to my estate planning and business ownership arrangements that would reflect Marcus's true character as demonstrated. During my birthday humiliation and remove his access to inheritance, he had assumed was guaranteed regardless of how he treated me during vulnerable moments. "Mr. Morrison, I need to make immediate and significant changes to my will and business ownership arrangements," I explained in my voicemail while Marcus drove home, completely unaware that his birthday abuse had just cost him $23.4 million. "Tonight's events have revealed character issues that make it clear my son cannot be trusted with generational wealth or business responsibilities that affect hundreds of employees and their families." The estate planning changes were completed on Monday, March 20th, 2023, while Marcus was congratulating himself on successfully establishing dominance over me and positioning himself as the logical choice to take over restaurant management based on my demonstrated incompetence during kitchen cleaning that he had forced me to perform while he enjoyed watching me suffer. My new will directed the entire $23.4 million restaurant empire to a charitable trust that would provide financial assistance to elderly people facing family abuse during vulnerable periods, fund improvements to senior care facilities that served elderly individuals with dignity and respect, and support advocacy programs that protected vulnerable adults from family exploitation and neglect. Marcus would inherit nothing, and the wealth he had assumed was his birthright would instead benefit thousands of elderly people who faced situations similar to mine. Family members who abused elderly relatives during vulnerable moments while assuming they were powerless to defend themselves or deliver consequences for disrespectful treatment. On Friday, March 24, 2023, exactly 1 week after Marcus had forced me to clean until 3 a.m. on my birthday, I scheduled a meeting at the executive offices of Meridian Hospitality Group, the parent company that owned the building where Marcus's employer, Premier Restaurant Group, rented their corporate headquarters. What Marcus didn't know was that Meridian Hospitality Group was one of 17 companies in which I held controlling ownership stakes through a complex network of trusts and investment partnerships that David and I had established during our marriage. Marcus's employer was essentially a tenant in a building I owned, operating under contracts that I could terminate and dependent on business relationships that I controlled through my hidden ownership of multiple hospitality industry companies. Marcus, I need you to come to a business meeting at 11:30 a.m. on Friday, I announced during a phone call on Thursday evening. We need to discuss some important changes to the restaurant management arrangements and my estate planning decisions. What kind of changes? He asked with immediate concern, apparently sensing that this meeting might affect his inheritance expectations and financial future in ways he hadn't anticipated. Just come to the meeting and everything will be explained, I replied, providing him with the address of Meridian Hospitality Group's executive conference room without mentioning my ownership of the building or my control of the business relationships that made his career possible. On Friday morning at 11:30 a.m., Marcus arrived at the Meridian Hospitality Group building wearing his best business suit and expecting to participate in discussions about transferring restaurant management responsibilities to him based on my obvious need for professional assistance after my poor performance during birthday kitchen cleaning. He was directed to the executive boardroom where I was waiting with Mr. Morrison, my attorney, along with representatives from the restaurant management companies that would be taking over operations of David's businesses, and executives from Meridian Hospitality Group who controlled the building where Marcus's employer operated, and the contracts that funded Premier Restaurant Group's business activities. Marcus, please have a seat, I said as he entered the boardroom, gesturing toward a chair positioned directly across from where I sat at the head of the conference table. A power position that should have alerted him that the dynamics of this meeting were very different from what he had expected. I've called this meeting to inform you about some important changes to my estate planning and business arrangements that resulted from your behavior during my 70th birthday celebration, I announced directly, watching his face as the magnitude of his situation began to become clear. What do you mean? Marcus asked with growing panic as he began to understand that this meeting was not about transferring wealth and control to him, but about consequences for his treatment of me during what should have been a loving family celebration. I mean that forcing your 70-year-old mother to scrub restaurant floors until 3 a.m. on her birthday, while you supervised and enjoyed her humiliation, has cost you access to $23.4 million in restaurant businesses, I explained calmly, allowing him to process the full financial implications of his birthday abuse. But Mom, that was just restaurant training, Marcus protested desperately, attempting to reframe his deliberate cruelty as professional development rather than acknowledging that his behavior had been abusive and unacceptable. You said you wanted to understand restaurant operations, so I was showing you what real restaurant work involves. Marcus, restaurant training doesn't involve forcing elderly family members to perform intensive physical labor until 3 a.m. while criticizing and humiliating them for your entertainment, I replied firmly. That was abuse disguised as education, and it revealed your true character when you believed I was powerless to defend myself or deliver consequences for disrespectful treatment. But the restaurants, I've been working toward managing them, he said with increasing desperation as he realized that the business empire he had assumed was his inheritance had been permanently redirected away from him. You've been managing restaurants that I own and control completely, I corrected, Your assumption that restaurant management would lead to inheritance was based on your belief that I was powerless and dependent on your assistance, rather than understanding that I was observing your character and determining whether you could be trusted with generational wealth. Mom, this is crazy, Marcus said with anger and desperation. You can't destroy my financial future over one evening of restaurant work. I'm not destroying your financial future, I replied. I'm protecting wealth that you would waste while continuing to abuse elderly family members as opportunities for power displays and entertainment rather than people deserving care and respect. You have a college education, professional experience, and the ability to build your own career success. But you don't have the character necessary to handle inherited wealth responsibly or treat people with dignity when you believe they can't. Defend themselves. The meeting continued for over an hour, with Marcus alternating between anger, bargaining, guilt tactics, and attempts to convince me that his birthday abuse had been justified and that he deserved inheritance regardless of his treatment of me during vulnerable moments. But the estate planning changes were final and irreversible. Marcus had lost access to $23.4 million because he had assumed his elderly mother was powerless and could be humiliated during family celebrations without consequences. There's one more thing, Marcus, I said as the meeting was concluding, and he was beginning to understand that his inheritance expectations had been permanently eliminated. Mr. Harrison from Meridian Hospitality Group has something to discuss with you about your employment situation. Marcus turned to look at Thomas Harrison, the executive vice president of Meridian Hospitality Group, with confusion about why his mother's attorney meeting would involve discussions about his job at Premier Restaurant Group. Mr. Chen, I'm afraid. I have some difficult news about your employment, Mr. Harrison announced with professional courtesy. Meridian Hospitality Group owns the building where Premier Restaurant Group operates, and we're terminating their lease due to contract violations related to employee conduct standards. What does that have to do with me? Marcus asked, though his voice suggested he was beginning to understand that his professional life was about to be affected by the same forces that had just eliminated his inheritance prospects. Your employer will be vacating this building within 30 days, and we've been informed that your position will be eliminated as part of their downsizing process, Mr. Harrison explained. Additionally, Meridian Hospitality Group has significant influence in the Bay Area restaurant industry, and we'll be sharing information about character concerns that make you unsuitable for positions involving customer service, staff management, or any roles where you might have authority over people who could be vulnerable to abuse or exploitation. Marcus was learning that the mother he had assumed was powerless actually controlled extensive business networks throughout the hospitality industry, including the building where he worked, the contracts that funded his employer, and the professional relationships that would determine his future career opportunities in restaurant management. You're blacklisting me from the hospitality industry, he asked with disbelief as the full scope of consequences became clear. We're ensuring that elderly people, service staff, and vulnerable individuals don't face the kind of treatment you demonstrated during your mother's birthday celebration, Mr. Harrison replied. The hospitality industry requires professionals who understand that power should be used to protect and serve others, not to exploit and humiliate people for personal entertainment. Over the following months, Marcus made numerous attempts to restore his inheritance status and professional reputation through improved behavior, emotional manipulation, legal challenges, and promises about future family respect that would never be tested, because the opportunity for earning generational wealth had been permanently lost through his actions during my 70th birthday celebration. The restaurant businesses he had been managing were transferred to professional management companies that maintained David's philosophy of balanced employee relationships and long-term value preservation, while generating income for charitable organizations that supported elderly people facing family abandonment and hospitality industry programs that trained staff in dignity and respect protocols. Marcus's attempts to find employment in the Bay Area hospitality industry were consistently unsuccessful. as word spread throughout professional networks about character concerns that made him unsuitable for positions involving authority over others or responsibility for customer service and staff welfare. 6 months after the birthday humiliation, Marcus moved to Portland, Oregon, where he found entry-level work in a small restaurant that wasn't connected to the professional networks where his reputation had been destroyed. His attempts to rebuild his career would require starting over completely, earning respect through actual performance rather than inherited position, and learning to treat others with dignity if he wanted to advance beyond basic service roles. Micah's 70th birthday had indeed been memorable, but not in the way Marcus had intended. Instead of establishing dominance over someone he believed was powerless, he had revealed his true character to someone who controlled more power than he had ever imagined, and who used that power to ensure that elderly people received the respect and protection they deserved. Today, at 70 years old, I am healthy, independent, and surrounded by professional caregivers and family friends who provide genuine support and companionship without expecting inheritance benefits in return. My estate planning reflects my values and priorities rather than the manipulative demands of family members who proved they couldn't be trusted during vulnerable moments. The Chen family restaurants continue to operate successfully under professional management that maintains David's standards of excellence while providing stable employment for hundreds of workers who are treated with dignity and respect. The profits fund charitable programs that have assisted over 3,000 elderly individuals facing family abuse and provided training for hospitality industry professionals in ethical treatment of colleagues and customers. Sometimes being forced to clean until 3 a.m. on your birthday leads to changing your will to reflect who truly deserves your wealth when family shows their real character during vulnerable moments. The restaurant empire that Marcus assumed was his birthright now provides assistance to elderly people who face similar family exploitation and helps train hospitality professionals who understand that true success comes from lifting others up, rather than using power to humiliate and control. If you're watching this story and recognizing similar patterns in your own family relationships, I want you to know that you have more power than you might realize, even during vulnerable moments when family members attempt to exploit your apparent helplessness for their entertainment and dominance displays. Birthday celebrations and family gatherings don't mean you have to accept abuse, humiliation, or disrespectful treatment from relatives who view your age or apparent dependence as opportunities to demonstrate their power and control over you. You have the right to expect genuine family respect during celebrations and special occasions without being made to feel guilty about setting boundaries or refusing to participate in activities that are designed to exhaust, humiliate, or exploit you for others' entertainment. You have the right to have your dignity and physical limitations respected during family events, rather than being forced to prove your worth through physical labor or endurance tests that younger family members design to establish dominance and control. And you have the right to modify estate planning and inheritance arrangements based on how family members actually treat you during vulnerable moments, including through financial consequences that reflect the true cost of abuse and the value of genuine family respect during celebrations and special occasions. Trust me when I tell you that sometimes the most empowering thing you can do is allow family members to experience the financial consequences of assuming elderly relatives are helpless and can be exploited without repercussions when respect requires genuine sacrifice rather than power displays and entertainment. The estate planning changes I made weren't punishment. They were education about the true cost of prioritizing personal entertainment over family respect and the expense of assuming that elderly parents are financially powerless and unable to defend themselves against abuse and exploitation during celebrations that should be about love and appreciation. Marcus learned that elderly family members who appear vulnerable during birthday celebrations may actually control substantial resources and have the power to reward genuine care or punish abuse and humiliation through inheritance decisions that reflect their true character and priorities when family respect requires real compassion rather than opportunities for dominance and control. The $23.4 million inheritance that Marcus lost will now provide assistance to thousands of elderly people facing similar family abuse during celebrations and special occasions, fund improvements to senior care facilities that serve elderly individuals with dignity, and support advocacy services that protect vulnerable adults from exploitation and neglect by family members who view them as opportunities for power displays rather than recognizing their worth and dignity. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for future generations of elderly people is to demonstrate that exploiting birthday celebrations and assuming physical helplessness can result in consequences more expensive than most people can imagine, and that family respect during special occasions should be genuine rather than conditional on entertainment value and dominance opportunities. What would you have done if your family forced you to clean until 3 a.m. on your birthday because they enjoyed watching you suffer? Have you ever been exploited by family members who made assumptions about your vulnerability and inability to defend yourself during celebrations and special occasions? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let me know if this story has inspired you to examine your own estate planning and family relationship dynamics. And if you found this story of reclaiming power and demanding genuine respect during birthday celebrations resonating with you, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more stories of people who chose dignity and autonomy when others tried to exploit their apparent helplessness during family events and special occasions. Sometimes being forced to clean until 3 a.m. on your birthday can lead to the most expensive education about the cost of assuming elderly parents are financially powerless, and the warmest appreciation for the thousands of elderly people who will now benefit from resources that were almost wasted on family members who demonstrated they didn't deserve the privilege of inheritance through their actions during times of perceived vulnerability and celebration. Remember, your worth isn't determined by your apparent physical limitations. Your power doesn't disappear during birthday celebrations, and your inheritance decisions should reflect the true character of people who claim to love you when they believe you have nothing to offer in return except opportunities for entertainment and dominance displays. Thank you for watching, and remember, never underestimate the power of an elderly person who appears vulnerable during family celebrations but is actually in complete control of resources that could change your life forever, especially when your treatment of them during their apparent helplessness determines whether you'll benefit from those resources or whether they'll be redirected to people who actually deserve them. The birthday celebration that Marcus thought was an opportunity to establish dominance became the most expensive mistake of his life, and the inheritance he assumed was his birthright became a charitable legacy that will benefit thousands of elderly people who face similar abuse and exploitation during celebrations that should be about love and respect. Sometimes justice comes with compound interest, calculated over decades of wealth building, and payable in full to those who demonstrate that elderly family members deserve respect, dignity, and genuine care during their birthday celebrations and special occasions, regardless of their apparent vulnerability or ability to defend themselves against family members who view them as opportunities for entertainment and power displays. The kitchen cleaning that seemed like family bonding became the catalyst for consequences that taught Marcus that elderly parents who seem helpless during birthday parties may actually hold the keys to generational wealth that disappears permanently. When family loyalty proves to be conditional on entertainment value rather than genuine love and respect.